All right, so good day so far? Everybody have a good day? Good, me too. All right, so when Salesforce is doing a ton to support these community organized conferences and events, and we really appreciate everything they've done to help us make this event happen. And so they may have decided it was a mistake, but they shared a quip doc with me and said, hey, give us your wish list of everything you want and list out any speaker from Salesforce you might like to have come. And so I was like, oh, I'd love to have somebody from the Trailhead team here this year. Dana Hall was fantastic last year. And so I started typing Chris Duarte's name, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'll type Sarah Franklin's name in there too. That's not going to happen, but I'll put it in there. And then they emailed me and said, Sarah's coming, and I sent a bunch of crazy excited GIFs, and then immediately I instantly thought I gotta have our local Trailhead hero, Gina Marques, do the interview with Sarah. So without further ado, our local Trailhead hero, Gina Marques, is gonna introduce Sarah.
Hi everybody. So I want to introduce Sarah Franklin, Executive Vice President of Developer Relations and Trailhead. Welcome. Thank you for joining us from the East Coast.
Thank you for having me. Is this on? Is it working?
No. Is your button on?
Oh. Uh-oh. This is her first time being on the microphone. Is that working? No. No?
Oop.
It is?
There you go.
Okay.
So I'm very honored to be moderating here today with you. Thank you for joining us. I'm curious about your career path. Can you tell us a little about how you are where you are today?
Absolutely. So first off, I just want to ask everybody, who is doing exactly what they thought they would do when they were like 18 years old? All right, there's one person, Mary Scotton. She's doing it. Wow, I didn't know you knew what developer evangelism was. So career paths are meandering journeys, and we learn something at every step of the way. I grew up where my mom was a teacher, and as you can imagine, we didn't have a lot. It was kind of, we came from humble beginnings, and so when I was 16, meeting with a guidance counselor, I was like, okay, what career can make me a lot of money? And she was like, be an engineer. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be an engineer. And I said, well, what's the best engineering school? She says, MIT. I was like, okay, I can't afford to go there, so what's the next best one that's in state, right, in Virginia? And Virginia Tech. And so I went there. I had dreams of being a chemical engineering. I got chemical engineering, biochemistry. I actually developed a passion for stem cell research. I wanted to be a doctor, change the world, do all these things. And going through that path, I graduated college. I was actually very bad at chemistry. And I was so that didn't really bode well for being like, a doctor. But I did really enjoy technical stuff. And anyways, I got my first job at Lockheed Martin as a chemical engineer. And who here has ever been in like a semiconductor fab? Anybody? One person, okay. So no offense, but it's kind of boring, right? You basically put on a bunny suit, you go into this wafer fab every day, and you do stuff that helps you sound really smart at parties. I worked in chemical, mechanical, planarization, all this fancy stuff. But I really missed interacting with people. And so I figured out, well, how can I get into working with people and working with technology? And I made a choice that I wanted to be at the forefront of technology. And I networked my way through to getting a job at Price Waterhouse, which was a consulting agency. And by doing that, I was very intentional about putting myself on this path where I could get access to the technology and have good interaction with people and really start charting my course. I meandered from consulting into big companies, small companies, scrappy startups, and I was at this startup called Coghead, where it was like a first generation app building without code platform. And I did this blog, like this blog that at the time, I don't think I don't know, it was just a blog that I was doing. And at the time, Salesforce had been watching us, and I got a cold call from Eric Stahl. He was like, hey, I saw your blog. Do you want to come in and talk to us at Salesforce? And I was like, sure. What is Salesforce, by the way? And that was 10 years ago. And I came in and I interviewed at Salesforce. I had no idea that that's where I would be spending the next 10 years of my life. Up until then, my average tenure at a company was probably like 2 to 3 years. And so my summary is that my career path has meandered. Since I've come to Salesforce, well, when I started at Salesforce, I started in platform product marketing. So launching Force.com, Mary was with me when we built like the first magic green button and Classic and all this stuff. She was a product manager at the time. And I actually had a journey where I was very still focused on money and title and all these things. And I know I'm going long. I have a purpose.
No, you're fine.
And I don't know if any of you know this, I actually had a little bit of a difficult time in my journey at Salesforce because I was super focused on achievement, right? What was my next thing I was going to achieve? And I got really frustrated because I was like, why am I not getting my achievement? I've done all the work, I've done really hard, I've done all the stuff I'm supposed to do to get the achievement. And I came to a crossroads because I wasn't getting it, what I wanted. And I actually left Salesforce.
Wow.
I actually took what I now call a paid hiatus. I went and I accepted a job at Amazon Web Services. And I was there for a hot 6 months. And I love AWS, but it was a very different culture for me. And I learned really quickly, like, wow, how much that culture meant to me and how much having my family meant to me. And in a very serendipitous moment, I was walking on the street and I ran into George who was then, I don't remember what his title was then. And he was like, hey, Sarah, when are you coming back to Salesforce? I was like, well, I didn't know I could. He was like, yeah. And then a week later, I came back. And I tell this story because I came back, this was maybe 5 years ago. I don't know, Mary can keep me true to the time. I came back to Salesforce, I had no direct reports, I had no real title, and I had a very different perspective. And I really decided that I wanted to do something I was passionate about. I thought about my mother, who was a retired teacher of 30 plus years, who when I go back to the grocery store, I'm from Richmond, Virginia originally, and when I go to the grocery store with her, it takes like an hour and a half because she knows everyone and she talks to everybody. And she's super friendly, and they come up to her and they say, Miss Sally, you changed my life. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I help businesses, you know, it's very like,
automate processes.
Yeah, right. I've told this story before, but the thing was, when I started following my passions, that's when success found me. And the success of all of my team and the success of all of you here. Like, we have, like, Sandy's over there in her golden hoodie, you know?
Hi, Sandy.
Like, yeah, like, I mean, like, that's amazing, right? And it's like the power of community and the power of caring, the power of following your passion. And so it's a long-winded story to a career journey, but it meandered. And I was like successful, okay, when I was like charting the course. But when I like kind of just breathed and let myself follow my passions, that was the awesome admin, Trailhead, Trailblazer, and all that stuff like took off.
Oprah aha moment, right?
Yeah, that was for me. Cool. What about you?
So my journey is kind of similar. I was a hairdresser when I got out of school. College really wasn't an option. I grew up in a single-parent household. And I quickly learned that that really wasn't my talent. And I was offered a job in a technology company in the beginning, part-time doing backups. And this was so long ago, I didn't even know what I did. I mounted a tape, I put in a command, it ran, it rewound when it was done, and off I went. Fast forward through my career, so I had multiple experiences in different parts of business, finance, manufacturing, sales, marketing. So I'll fast forward to 2014. In February, I started a new position. They had a bunch of in-house applications that they developed, and they just went on to the Salesforce platform. They needed help, so it was a newly created position. So they brought me on board to teach me the homegrown applications and help kind of migrate them to something else, whether it was Salesforce or not. And within that first week, the other admin resigned, and he actually went to work for Salesforce.
Oh God, sorry.
No, he's a success manager, and I still keep in touch with him today.
We're like career opportunity, right?
Exactly. He opened the door for me, if you think about it, because I was going to be in charge of all these homegrown apps, and really he was going to take Salesforce and kind of run with it. So, and I thank him for that, because it really did open the door for me. So in his 2 weeks, we kept having these meetings, and I kept saying, Patrick, what about Salesforce? What about Salesforce? He's showing me all these in-house applications, and he kind of just, I became this like nagging wife to him, like, what about Salesforce? What are we going to do? And he basically, the advice he said to me at the time, Trailhead was in its infancy at the time, but he said, Google it. He said, any problem you have, just Google it. You'll find an answer, and you'll get an answer. And he was right. So I'm going to fast forward to August of 2016 at my now job. I performed that security health check, so you admins out there, if you haven't done that, you should do that, because we scored in the low 30s. And I went to my boss, and he agreed we needed to do something about it. So I went out to Trailhead, and I started taking security trails, anything I could learn about security. There was a lot of things outside my realm. And 2 weeks later, I get this email from Lauren Grau at Trailhead Marketing, and it says, congratulations. Yay! You earned the millionth badge on Trailhead, and with security basics, and it had the date and the time. And I have to say, I looked at that email like 3 times, and I was thinking, like, is this real? Like, like I can't hit the lottery, but how did this happen, right? So I emailed back something like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, I was still unsure. And
Do you know that we were taking bets on the day that it would actually happen?
I heard there's a whole story. They were watching me actually do the trail. I heard that. The second email came from Lauren saying, okay, we're going to have to set up a conference call. You're going to have to find a local photographer. And it just kind of catapulted me into this whole Trailblazer community. So can you tell us what a Trailblazer is?
Yeah, this is actually a pretty simple thing. And I do attribute, you mentioned her name, the lovely Lauren Grau, for a lot of this. And Trailblazers are people like all of you. They're people from all walks of life that are always innovating, that are always having the courage to pioneer, and really dedicating yourselves to always learning. And you learn from successes just as much as you learn from failures. And those are, that's the very simplest definition of what is a Trailblazer. And a fun little anecdotal story as well, the Trailblazer hoodie almost never existed. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Again, that was Lauren Grau and team, but Trailblazer is something very different. And from a software technology marketing perspective, a lot of times you wanted to put on the swag, the company logo or the product name, right? And this was originally, there was a debate, like, should that say Trailhead or Trailblazer, right? And Trailhead is about the people. It's about empowering you. It's about giving you the courage to innovate and giving you all the skills you need, to do this. And it was very intentional and very different to say, we're not going to put the logo, well, it is there on the sides. But we're going to say Trailblazer. And really, just as though back in the day, I know y'all have the 76ers playing tonight, which that was like, hopefully the Celtics are like tired. I am a Warriors fan, sorry. But still rooting for the Sixers tonight. But just as back in the day, like, I grew up watching Jordan, play basketball. And I remember with the Air Jordans, it was like kids felt like they could, jump as high as Michael Jordan when they put up on a pair of these shoes, right? And that's the feeling that we want everybody to get, is that, you know, when you put on your hoodie and you know that we're behind you, like, we are here and you can do anything that you set your mind to. And that is really what a Trailblazer is, and that's what we wanted to communicate with this. And then the really important thing about Trailblazers is that what unites us is really the trail heart. And this is a Chris Duarte special. Alex mentioned her earlier. But Trailheart is really about how you manifest that emotion of the sense of community, the sense of family, and how you act with purpose and how you're intentional in everything that you do. You probably don't even want to know this, like how much attention to detail goes into every character, everything that happens. Like when we make the signage for the Trailhead area, Dreamforce and TDX and everything, like we literally have meetings about which character goes in which basket and who, we literally, like there's so much trail heart into everything that we do that there's story and intentionality behind Hootie McOwlface up there, or Ernie, who's Ernie the Badger, whose real name is Ernesto, who is Lauren's grandmother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, or Cloudy the Goat, who, I know you didn't want me to really talk about characters on this slide, but it's hard. But like Cloudy the Goat, who Cloudy was originally clicky, because it was like Cody codes and clicky clicks. But, and you know, the goat clicks on the mountain. But then the community was like, no, her name is Cloudy. We're like, okay, yeah, her name is Cloudy. And Meta Moose, who's not on the slide, like, we put it out there. Like, people saw the moose, and they're like, where's Meta Moose? And, well, at that time, Moose didn't have a name, but the community named him Meta Moose. Anyways, that's all trail heart. And that's what unites us as well.
Okay. So,
did I mess you up with the characters?
No. So right after the whole millionth badge thing, I attended my first Dreamforce, and upon my arrival, I had this message: please meet Dana Hall in the Trailhead zone, or the Trailhead Lodge. So
Were you still doubting us then? Did you believe it then?
I believed it then because there was some media, and Chris Duarte had some webinars about Dreamforce, and she talked about it and mentioned my name. It was very, very cool. So when I got there, I met Dana, and Dana presented me with this backpack. And she asked me if I'd wear it.
Fancy.
I'd wear it around Dreamforce. And she was looking at me like I was going to say no. How could I say no with all this? And there's a whole trail heart story behind its creation in itself. But one thing it did for me is it really, it was the conversation starter. And the icebreaker, and it really forced me to meet people and talk to people. And the more I learned about people's stories, I will definitely say, like, the bigger my trail heart grew.
Aww.
Trailhead has truly just impacted like my life and changed how I go about things now. And can you just tell us how Trailhead got started? I heard some rumors today that like you were the brain behind Trailhead.
Yeah, like I created Trailhead, I created Trailblazer, I solved world hunger, I made world peace, I did all those things.
Sarah for
just
president.
Me, yeah. Yeah, I did it all. That's like, it's funny. One of my favorite things to say is that trailblazing is a team sport. And yes, I have been here as a champion of Trailhead and Trailblazer and awesome admin and everything for our developers, everything. And I get animated about them. And I even, those who know me, the fact that there's a disco ball in this venue, like, I am so excited right now. It's like so me. But the creation of Trailhead was again, it was made from Trail Heart, and it was a total team thing. I mentioned Lauren Grau already. She was actually a history major, and she loves Emerson. And I never get the quote right, but the one which is, go not where the path may lead, but
where it finds you.
Where it finds you and leave a trail. Or Lauren will say it correctly, but like that was like her inspiration for how we should have journeys and guided paths for learning. One of our developer evangelists, Josh Burke, he loved like playing games, and he really loved how at that time we talked about medals and awards and trophies, but how you could have this fun and incentivized way of learning, which was getting these trophies and medals. Chris Duarte wasn't immediately on the team, but she came in with this whole thing about the tone and voice. Sandeep Bano, there was a whole team. And we all just kind of came together with this sense of purpose that we could help people learn Salesforce and make it fun and make it easy and make it interactive. And that was the birth of Trailhead. And Adam Seligman's another character, I'm not mentioning the story, who's not only a big advocate for Trailhead, but also for diversity in the developer community as well. And it's important that you think of anything that you do. If you ever, Trailhead is a great success story, and we've got so much more room to grow, but the biggest thing is like, to always know that you're better when you work together with others. And a lot of people, when you want to do something, whether it's a project at work or whether it's even a personal goal you want to achieve, like running a 10K, you're so much better or so much more likely to achieve that goal when you bring people in to help you achieve it with you. So if you want to run a 10K, if you go and you tell your friends like, hey, I want to run a 10K, they'll root you on and cheer you on and give you advice, right? And same thing with Trailhead was we didn't do it on our own. We went to our docs team and we said, how can we, get the documentation, not just do it on our own. And so it was a great team win to build Trailhead together. And I did not do it alone. Anything I've done on my own has probably not gone that well. Things that I do together, they're successful.
It's a team effort.
Yes.
So there's this incredible emphasis on Trailhead, and I mean, it's everywhere. It's at every Salesforce event. I feel like every user group meeting, even our Salesforce Saturdays, Trailhead is present. Why is it so important?
So Trailhead is very important for, and if you want to go back a slide. Yeah, that's good. Trailhead is very important for a few reasons. And we'll get into some of the passions we have behind it in a minute, but our technology innovates 3 times a year, and people are always coming new to the ecosystem. There's not enough people like you that know our technology, and it's important that we are able to do this at scale in a way that is also a choose your own adventure type of thing. And you see this today where you always have to reinvent yourself and learn these new skills so that you have your example with the security check, which I love that security check. I mean, I was like, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I really need to update my passwords, right?
We scored 80 after I was done.
See, and so having that security health check, it empowered you to go to your boss and have an opinion and be very educated and say, I'm going to make this more secure. Right?
Right.
And I've got these best practices lined up. And they're like, whoa, who's Gina coming out here with all the, and that's what we want to do is, so from a Salesforce standpoint, it's important that you are able to learn our technology because we're only going to be successful if you're successful. That's one. Number 2 is that just super passionate about helping people always skill up because the world is always changing. And then the community part of it, it's really important to connect and not just learn on your own, but just like you're doing here today, to connect with others. And we're going to talk a little bit later about more that we're doing there, but that's a very important part of it as well.
So I read an article that you were interviewed in, and you talk about your mentors and how some of your mentors pushed you outside your comfort zone. This room is filled with those types of people. For me, Alex, just putting me up on stage right now, he's a huge
Yeah, you said this
mentor
was your first time having a microphone. We took a selfie there. I was like, I'm there for the first. And then she's the one that has to tell me where the on button is.
Bill Powell pushes me every day to be a better version of myself, and I really appreciate the friendship that I have with him. But There's so many others in this room who have mentored me, Mike Smith, Linda Johnson, Kathy. I mean, you pushed me on stage at GDI. I mean, said, you could do this. So there's people all around the world being these mentors. Why is it so important that this special force that's in the ecosystem?
So mentorship and friendship are both, and you mentioned both of those words, and they are both so important. You're not going to get anywhere in this life on your own. And we need each other. And mentorship is something that comes from learning from people that are very tenured and very experienced to people that are in your same world right now, and also from people that can help you have a beginner's mind. People that might not know exactly anything about your industry, or might be younger. There's mentorship and learnings that are important to really capture. And going back to what we said about trailblazers and being lifelong learners from success or failure, it's really important to always approach every situation with what can I learn from this? What can I learn from you? And how can I help you learn as well? Mm-hmm. And when you do that, when you put it is very hard, by the way. It's very hard because, want to think that we're always right, We want to think of course, I've got the right solution for something, or somebody's going to think I'm stupid if I ask a dumb question. Or what if I fail? What if I'm wrong? That's embarrassing, right? And it takes a lot of courage to make yourself vulnerable those ways to mentors and friends. And that's all about trust. And it's all about trusting, at the end of the day, we're going to be better together, right? And so that's why it's so important, because if we do want to do anything good in this world, I love the Gandhi saying, be the change. People that know me know that. And I wear it on my little bracelet. It's in here, my be the change thing.
I've seen you wear that bracelet a lot.
I was
wondering if there was a story behind it.
I made it on Etsy, yay.
Oh, cool.
But it's pretty, but the thing is to know that you have to open yourself up to your friends, to your mentors, let them push you, let yourself succeed, let yourself fail, because you're going to learn. And if we don't push that, we won't see change. If you just say, well, you're not going to have personal change, you're not going to affect other change, and you can't do it alone. You need friends, you need mentors, and that's why it's really important.
And we have a lot of them here.
Yes, that's why you have these things. This is important.
So I think we're going to show that video.
Oh, but yeah, so this is
Okay.
just when we've talked about trailblazers and mentors and friends, this gentleman, I cry every time I see this movie. This.
I want a good life for my kids. And they say money can't buy you happiness, but at a certain point it can buy you some time with your kids, and that's pretty darn close. My grandparents were survivors of the Great Depression, and it was always communicated to me to consider work a blessing. Most of my family worked labor jobs. My dad's a factory worker for his whole career, and that was always what I thought I would do. I was homeschooled my entire way through school. I never went to public school a day in my life. My mom was my teacher. I basically dropped out at 16. I started my first job the day after my 16th birthday because we wanted to make a living. And I ended up in a manufacturing position, slicing deli meat, processing deli meat. The facility was in a man-made cave underground here in Missouri, but it was a job, and a lot of people were losing their jobs and losing their homes and losing everything else. I felt lucky to have a job at all. I felt lucky to be working. The thing that was the most sobering was probably having my son and realizing that I had to have more of a structured plan in place. Looks good, but at some point I knew there had to be something I could learn to do to provide a better future. I have a cousin that comes from a similar background that I do, and he landed in a job as a developer for Salesforce. And he said, well, you'd probably be okay to be an admin. the light bulb kind of came on, and this was all of a sudden something I could learn to do without a whole lot of risk. There were these online videos that were hands-on training, were much more technical, much more guided. At the same time, I found out that there was a whole community of people I could connect with and learn from. It was a huge weight off my shoulders, and I wasn't the only one. Once the pieces all clicked, then the bulb was on nice and bright. About 4 months later, I had an interview, the biggest interview of my life. I told my current boss, "You will not interview anyone else for this position that is nearly as excited about this as I am."
You probably didn't know it at the time, but he was an easy choice. The biggest impact is his passion for Salesforce and educating others. He's really built a name for himself.
An account page in Salesforce. It was remarkable. It was from the factory floor to dealing with some of the most advanced technology in the world. I made it. I did it.
You see, it doesn't just affect his work life, it affects his home life. You know, he works hard for us. I'm just really proud of him. You know, I always have been. So, sorry.
My American dream is providing for my family and having enough time to spend with them. I found it. Blazing a trail means leaving a trail that can be followed. And now I need to turn around and build a highway behind me to pass it on, to pay it forward. Trailhead is the front door of the new economy to change your life. It's all free, it's all online, it's all accessible. The jobs are out there, the security for your family it can be had. I'm living proof that there's a place for anyone in the new economy. You just have to reach for it. I'm Zach Otero, and I'm a Trailblazer.
So we have one person in the audience who took advantage of all that Trailhead had to offer, got involved in the Trailblazer community, and that's Terrence Allen. We're going to ask Terrence to come up and join us.
Hello, ladies. How you doing?
Good. Come in the middle. You're gonna. Sorry, when my head goes this way, it gets really loud.
You can move this back. It's fine.
Okay. How's everyone? Good.
So, can you share, Terrence, a little bit about your Trailblazer journey and what it means to you to be a Trailblazer in that hoodie right now?
I've always wanted one of these hoodies. I see everybody online going to the, going to different community outings. And how do I get a Trailblazer hoodie? Everybody tells you got to earn it. You have to earn it. So I got recognized today by a good friend, Alex. I know Gina, Catherine, Javen. Number of people. Michael Smith, Matthew Kennedy. All these people, help guide me on my way, through trying to get into the Salesforce community. I've worked in IT for, 20 years in varying capacities. I was a server guy. I was application packaging. I just did a number of different things. I got laid off. Said, hey, well, let's go out here. I wanted to change, exactly the direction. I didn't want to sit behind a desk any longer. And to your point, I wanted to do something that was going to have me in front of people, using my personality along with working within IT. And I got lucky and found a job working with Salesforce. It was hard. I had to come out there with, shaking hands, kissing babies, Kissing
babies is fun.
Yeah, it is. I had a good time, It was a lot of perseverance. Trailhead, anyone that I come across who's kind of in that, that transition stage, I try to tell them, look, this is the easiest thing that you could ever come across in your life. Go to Trailhead, create an account. Everything is free. You can learn, you can screw it up, you can go back in, you can start all over again. And I said, look, within a year, you can find yourself a job.
So that's the advice you would give someone new, trailblazing. We have some new people here today.
The advice.
Who's new here today? Oh my gosh, wow, that's amazing.
You know,
What do you tell them?
The advice that I would give you is, you know, everybody has some level of apprehension, you know, when going through these transitional stages. Just ignore that voice that tells you to, hey, you know, go back to what's normal, what's comfortable, whatever it is. You know, ignore that voice in the back of your head. You know, just forward your own path and be a trailblazer.
Thanks, Terrence.
You can bring that down. I love hearing that story. Thank you so much, Terrence, for sharing. And we skipped over one of the slides earlier.
Do you want to go
around,
back?
It is fine. I'll talk to it. But it was around equality and kind of the questions of why. And it's important to give everybody this equal opportunity to this great, you know, ecosystem of jobs. And there's a lot more work that we need to do, like in the world, to help, you know, change the numbers, because thank you so much for going back to the slide, because the numbers like aren't good right now in the tech industry. I was fortunate that Mary Scotton took time to do equality evangelism and helped, you know, enlighten me on a lot of the state of the world and a lot of the things that even I was doing with that had my own unconscious bias, and things that something which is very simple, like in a meeting, instead of saying, you know, you guys, you can say like you all or something. I like saying y'all, I'm from the South, but like there's things that you can do to make people feel like included, and it's these things are important because, you know, you look at the number of women, Hispanics, African Americans, doesn't have other underrepresented minorities, like whether based on sexual orientation or based on even abilities. This is statistics that we can affect change on, right? Right. And Terrence mentioned that Trailhead is free, right? And you look at the bar, I love the chart on the left. The marketing team tells me that it's really not good for a slide. But the way to read that chart is that the things that are in red are increasing in price, and the things that are in blue are getting more affordable. And here in the United States, it's different things. Like in Spain, the education is actually free in Spain, but they have a really bad unemployment problem because they're getting educated, but they're not getting educated on what people are hiring for, right? Oh, wow. And so here, like when college tuition goes up 200%, and people, you know, 20 years ago when I graduated from Virginia Tech, like I had a student loan of like $12,000. Right. Now people have student loans of like $200,000. Yeah. I mean, it's like I had a bill of like maybe $75 a month for my student loan. But now, I mean, this is like people's rent goes towards student loans, right? That's just not cool. And so with Trailhead, we can help people. Like Terrence, it sucked when you lost your job, but I'm glad that you found your way into this community, right? And I hope that we can help other people. You know, Zach lost his job. He's a great person. And it's not just for people that are unemployed, but it's for everyone. And whether you're, you know, a veteran coming back to work, a mom coming back into the workforce, whether you are a music teacher that, you know, needs to, you know, learn something different, whether you're just bored. You know, Crystal Carter was a lawyer, you know, and now she's like an entrepreneur and technologist, right? So anyways, it's my tangent there, but it's why it's important. And so we can go forward now to your other slides. I totally derailed you. I apologize.
So innovation never stops at Salesforce, but particularly, there's that word.
See, I told you, and it's a hard word to say. Yes. I told her before this, I said, when you have hard words to say, like tell people, hey, that was a really
hard word, and I made it through it. Particularly at Trailhead, there's constantly new content. Just last week, they released a bunch of new content. So what's next for us Trailblazers?
So you may have heard about things we said with my Trailhead, but one of the biggest things that I'm really, really excited about is what we're doing with, this is the profile, right? Yeah, trailblazer.me. So who of your MVPs here? Yeah, a few. So we did a little bit of, yeah, bravo. A lot of work. I think we briefed the MVPs on this a few months ago. I'm trying to remember, it goes by really fast. But we've been doing a lot of work for this trailblazer.me unified profile. What this is unifying all of your profiles to one unified profile. I mean, how many people have multiple on Success right now, or DEs? And yeah, you're like, okay, there's like 80 Amber Boaz like people like in the, and we want to have one profile that will SSO you in, like not like clunky SSO, like real seamless next generation type of authentication. It's actually pretty cool. Like you don't even have a password. It uses you know, your email, your text, or whatever. It's nice. So thinking of all like the privacy and security. But it's one profile that unifies your Trailhead badges and rank, your reputation that you have in the community, the credentials that you've earned, so certs and all that stuff together, and then other innovations like if you've spoken at Dreamforce, or if you've hosted an event, or if you've adopted a school that you're going to volunteer at. I even heard that there's a gentleman in the community here that is originally from Ethiopia, and that is here in the community and is like dialing it back in, you're working, and there might be ways that we can help, but like this is something that you would want to have like on the profile, right? And also all the things that you have about your resume are there as well. And so that is what we've really been doing, and this was work, as you all know, it takes work to do an implementation. This is an implementation of our technology, plus Chuck Mortimer, who's our head of identity, is doing work on this as well. So, oh, and is that Bashan? Oh my God, I love Bashan. Bashan just got his golden hoodie in Boston. Nice. He was a Europe intern, and anyway. So this is like a reinvented resume, and we're tying this into the community, so then you imagine this matchmaking becomes even simpler, right? We add a metadata for company profiles. We add the metadata for job profiles. Once we have the identity implemented, which this is coming like right around Dreamforce, it just really opens up the world for us and makes your lives a lot easier.
So it'll tie, if a company is using Trailhead Tracker, it'll tie all that together?
Yes, yeah, so I mean, think of this as like the link and the aggregation between, you might have questions like, well, in my production license for, and let me step back. This is perpetual. So, meaning, say you have a Salesforce login, and it's like your production login for the company. If you change companies, right, that you no longer have that license, right? But we don't want you to lose that reputation, and we don't want you to lose you, right? We want you to, like, we want Gina to be Gina forever in our community, right? And you can hook up other Salesforce licenses. And we're starting with core, adding in Marketing Cloud and all that stuff too, but also adding in other places you have reputation, like how many people have GitHub accounts, right? You probably have some reputation there. Slack. Like, so really putting this all into one place. And it doesn't like go away when a Salesforce license goes away per se. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
Are you excited for that?
I am.
Okay. It's a lot of work.
I always instruct new admins to make sure they sign into Trailhead with a personal email that stays with them because of that fact. When you leave your company, right now you kind of lose it a little bit if it's not connected beforehand, and it gets a little complicated. So this will streamline everything.
Yeah, we've started to lay the groundwork where in Trailhead now you can have multiple logins and you can connect all of your DEs. But this is taking it to the next level, so it's bringing it all together. And so when you, it won't be at Dreamforce, but it'd be right after Dreamforce, where if you use the events app, it just seamlessly will log you in. You'll have to connect it, but it should be really good for all of you.
It's exciting. Sarah, you've built your career in this amazing movement, Trailblazer community, at one of the most innovative companies in the world out there. What are some of your top leadership lessons? Did we miss a slide?
No, it's perfect. So my leadership lessons is pretty simple. And I probably go like these, like whichever way you're looking at it, right to left. I guess like you're reading Farsi or something, go this way. So the first thing is to be bold. And being bold carries a lot of meaning. We talked earlier about like having courage. When you are finding something that you want to do, think like what the most the most hugest goal you might think of would be for accomplishing that thing, and then times it by 10. Because you really need to think big about what you're trying to do. And what that does is inspire people. It also, sometimes they think you're crazy. People sometimes think I'm crazy. I'm like, so imagine this, like we're gonna get everybody with a reinvented degree, so you don't need college anymore. And people are like, whoa, Sarah, you're crazy.
We have a new CEO, and not to sidebar you, but he came in, and his first meeting with all of us, he said, I'm so happy to be joining you because you're all crazy. And he played this video that Apple put together about Albert Einstein and how all the inventors were crazy. And that was his point.
Yeah, you see this future. And so part of being bold also requires you to, number one, have the courage to be bold. Number two, once you've said that thing, then what happens is immediately 3 things will come into your being: fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? You're like, oh, I have this big, amazing vision. It's so great. It took a lot of courage to come up and talk about it. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh God, there's a lot of people looking at me. Maybe I sound really stupid. Oh, I doubt myself. Can I even really do it? And you have to take those emotions and say, thankful for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me that I'm human right now, and I'm fearful and uncertain, but I'm going to breathe, and I'm going to look at all my friends and my mentors, and I'm going to know that this is going to be a great thing, and no matter whether I succeed or fail, I will have tried and will have learned, and people really respect that. And from a leadership standpoint, people want that from you, right? They want to know that you have courage, and that you will be bold, and that you will be responsible as well. So that's sort of about being bold. The other, we've already talked a little bit about this, but totally win as a team. No matter what it is, a little delight or a big project win, it's important that at every step of the way, people feel that they're a part of it. And not just people that are on your team, people that are outside your team, people that might just be affected by the thing that you're doing. Get people rooting for you. When everybody's vested in what you're doing, you're much more likely to succeed. And that's not just on the celebration side or the implementation side. It's also in the understanding of what you're doing. Meaning, say take something like this, like Philly Force, for example. Big team effort to get it going, to make it all happen.
It's like planning a wedding.
It was, bravo for doing it. But it's also about telling people what you're doing, because by doing that, you don't realize you get people cheering for you that you don't even know. Like, for example, like your friends and family that might not be in the Salesforce community probably knew that you were doing this today, right? You probably got some text messages that were like, oh my God, I can't wait for you to go on stage. You're going to be so great. And by inviting people in with you, like they feel part of your success when you share like, oh, it was a great experience. They feel like they were part of it too, right? So it's not just about winning as a team, as like doing things together, but as getting people behind you. Like if you're, I mentioned earlier, training for a 10K, whatever it is, like you feel like it's not just you crossing that finish line, it's you together, everybody's there together. One of my favorite things to do, you may have seen us at the end of like Dreamforce or Trail DX, we do our team photo. And I was really excited this year when we took our team photo because it wasn't just Team Trailhead in the photo. We also had some of the events team, some of the keynote team. Like we had some other members that they felt they were part of it too, right? And that was a really good thing. And then my favorite is to have fun. I am from the South, and I was raised where to taught like there's nothing a smile can't fix, which may not, I don't know, whatever. Anyway. But the point is that when you're having fun together and when you approach it and you just add these little splashes of delight, you can have the most stressful situation and you might have the most, and you can have a list of things to be done and it can be very serious, but you can add a little sparkle. Like I like little splashes of confetti. There's a reason why now you get confetti when you earn a badge. And it's actually, confetti is one of my favorite things to teach leadership because throwing confetti is really fun. Actually, it's really fun. You pop it and it's like really fun. But then once the confetti's all done, it's all on the ground and it has to be cleaned up. And we have it in our office. We actually have our little brooms and what are they called?
Vacuum.
Oh yeah, well Chris Duarte has her own personal dustbuster.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no shit, and it's bedazzled
to clean up the
and everything.
Glitter.
But we all, like, we do birthday cakes, we throw confetti, we do a lot of this stuff, and we all get down there. I get down on my hands and knees, and I'm cleaning up confetti.
The confetti.
Because it's a lot of fun to throw the confetti, it's not as much fun to pick it up. Okay. But that's when you're winning as a team and you're having fun together. It actually, if one person was picking up the confetti, it would take them 20 minutes. If you all come and do it together, it takes you like 30 seconds, you know? So that's my little tidbits. There's a lot you can learn from confetti, promise that.
I forgot to ask you. So I had the Trailhead team actually sign my backpack. So before you leave today, I want to ask you to also sign it for me. Amanda Chung actually drew Astro on it, so it's pretty cool.
Oh, she drew it?
Yeah.
Where? Oh my God.
I think it's over here. She
tried
to
that
draw.
is a special limited edition.
Yeah, this is very special to me, actually. So it's just been so amazing to sit up here. You're such an incredible woman.
It's been amazing to sit here with you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. You're such an incredible woman in tech, Salesforce leader, a global change agent. I'm going to open up the floor for you all to ask Sarah some questions that I probably missed. But I have one more topic I want to talk to you about.
Yes.
And that is diversity. How can we all help move diversity forward in our workplace?
So we talked a little bit about this earlier, that the numbers aren't that great. And it's actually pretty simple. And there was, does anybody follow Mark Benioff on Twitter?
Of course.
Okay. He had, I apologize, I don't know the gentleman's name that he retweeted, but he retweeted this post. It was just yesterday about Slack and how Slack has like moved the numbers in diversity. And it was a really interesting post because he says, you know, they didn't hire a chief diversity officer, they didn't do all this stuff. They did something really simple. They were really intentional about every interview. They had underrepresented minorities there. And they just basically said they were going to do it. And they did it. And so for everybody here in the room, if you want to move the needle on diversity, just like a V2 mom or anything, you write it down and you do it. And how do you do it? it's the same way as you would think about any goal you want to achieve. You go and you say, okay, start asking questions. Okay, well, there's not enough diversity here. Well, why? Okay, well, what are the open positions? Okay, let's go ahead and look at the talent pool. Okay, well, why isn't there enough there, right? Okay, well, and if the answer is I need to make them, I need to skill them up. Okay, well, where's my local place where I can help that? How can I volunteer? How can I do that? And if you feel stuck, then you ask, for help. And this is something that I'm really also proud that everybody just looks at it now, right? It was something that people didn't used to look at, right?
Right.
And as a woman in tech, I mean, as engineering, I was mostly one of the only women in there, right?
I'm the only woman in my department.
Yeah. I have my own thing I call Project Eagle 10. I literally have a Quip document of women whose careers, like, I personally want to advocate for, and I personally try. And so to answer your question is you just go out and you start helping.
Doing something.
Mm-hmm.
On the topic of equality, if somebody was facing inequality in the workplace, what advice would you give them?
So unfortunately, there is inequality out there. And I get back to one of my #1 values, which is courage. And if you see inequality, you have to have the courage to call it and to say it and to speak up for it and stand behind it. And it might not be popular. It might not be easy. Different companies have different procedures. I feel very fortunate to work at Salesforce where we do have good policies there. There's no retaliation, things like that. But if you see it happening, go up to the person and ask them, how did that make you feel? How are you feeling right now? How can I help, right? And, but it takes courage. It really does. Like, we've seen, some of the people that have stood up for inequality, and, it's hard, what happens. But when you do, I just believe that karma and everything will work its way out. But when you see it, you have to stand up for it.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the audience, does anybody have any questions for Sarah? We have about 10 minutes left. Somebody?
You have to have some question, right?
Sarah flew all the way here from San Francisco. Come on,
Like
Mary.
everyone else, I will run upstairs, so feel free.
We have one right over here.
Bill Powell.
I may not be fast.
So where do you see the future of Trailhead in the next 5-10 years?
So 10 years is really hard to see. 5 years, I'll tell you where my dreams are. And Sandeep knows this. I really do believe in the reinvention of the degree. So right now, we've been building up Salesforce content on Trailhead, and we have basically 2 types of assessments. We have the hands-on challenges, which can be done, in a sandbox org, eventually getting that to scratch orgs, and then there's quizzes. There's work that we're doing right now to scaffold this up, to bring credentials, to bring the certs over, to make sure we have that trust and security and everything. But there's more we can do with the assessment engines, and making that, even being able to be, have challenges that are awarded via API, meaning you may have seen us add other content from other companies with Google, with Amazon, with Atlassian. The idea is that as developers, it's important that you know how to do Agile, you know how to do source code management in the cloud with GitHub, et cetera. That's very intentional that we're starting to build relationships with these companies because there's more to learn. As much as I love Salesforce and there's a great economy around there, there's more skills that people need to learn. And so by starting to scaffold our way towards a deeper type of credentials and adding in more assessment types and really adding more sophistication to the assessment engines, you start to open up like a lot more, going from just like competency and skill based to really like role based and eventually degree based type of learning. And you look at other things with blockchain, for example, where you start to say, well, maybe I learned this on Trailhead, but I also maybe took a class at a community college, or maybe I did an apprenticeship, or maybe I did a project at a nonprofit organizations, right? And so you start to, and maybe you don't need a degree that means that you go for 4 years at one place. You know, you could go bounce around. And you can daisy chain these things together to have this really built out skills graph. And then you look at the employment side. I mean, every company webpage has an About Me page, right? But those About Me pages they're pretty boring. You don't really tell about the company. Those are great marketing sites in places where you should have photos and things. And so, and the job listing, like, job descriptions are they're like pages of text. How do you know what that is, right? Like, isn't it better to look at a job? Like, if you're hiring somebody, wouldn't you rather like have them meet your team, see some sample projects, have a portfolio? These are things that we're looking to the future of Trailhead. And that's probably the 5-year vision. 10 years, who knows? But that's like what I'm really passionate about. Did I answer your question? Okay, good.
Hi there. Can you talk about how you might start using Einstein to be my personal mentor, to start to coach me through my career path based on the history that I've got, but also people similar to me?
So super great question, and we're starting down that path. If you've gone to the Trailhead website, we just started with this thing called Trail Guides. And right now it's starting with there's 6 roles on there: admin, developer, sales manager, marketer, architect. I'm forgetting the 6. And what happens is when you sign up for one of those, you get put onto an automated journey that right now has some pretty rudimentary logic. But we're working with Richard Socher and the Einstein team to develop these algorithms for next badge, next trail, even next person that you should meet in the community, or next thing that you should do. And so that is also, I do apologize, I should have mentioned that in the vision for that's probably in the next year, where we start to have that type of functionality. And then some other work that we're doing is with the notification framework to help intelligently notify you of things happening in Trailhead, in the community, outside, that are relevant to you, because it is about that career journey. And then also bringing in, right now we have some demographic information from Burning Glass, but it's not real time. But to hook that up to their APIs, to have this real-time interaction so you can know what's going on, how you rank. A lot of people, you talked about equality, a lot of people when they go to apply for a job, they don't know what their starting salary should be, right? They don't know what their market value is, right? And so how do we help people on that path and to have that information so they know, okay, I've got these skills, this is kind of what I'm worth, and I can have that conversation.
It's very hard to know your worth.
Yeah, you don't know, and you're like, oh, good, I got a job, yay, right?
Right.
And so I want to help people with that. So that's probably the next year or 2.
Anybody else? Oh, Michael.
One last question.
This is not entirely a question, more of a, I'm curious.
I'm curious.
To bring what you were saying about diversity and alongside with Einstein and pointing you towards who you should meet in the community, et cetera. When you read about AI, you often hear about how our biases get baked into the AI, even though we don't intend it to. And something that I'll credit Missy Longshore has been talking a lot about, the fact that the MVP program could be more diverse than it is. And I credit the MVP team for trying to work on that. But I'm curious if your team has started thinking about, when we implement this feature of another person you should meet in the community or that kind of thing, how do we ensure that that doesn't build in the biases that we already have because this is a technology industry which is already underrepresented, et cetera?
It's a great question, and the fact that that you recognize that is very elevated, because it shows that, and it's something that we have active discussions on, because you look at hiring, for example. I'll get to community recommendations in a second, but if you were to look at the last 100 years of hiring, we would probably have more white men, right? Is like if you're using an algorithm to choose. And it's fascinating, like Peter Schwartz and Peter Coffey are like amazing luminaries. I'm not an expert on this, but the AI and having this bias programmed into this is something which is very, we're very cognizant of. And so that's why right now we're not doing anything, not saying like AI is turned on, but more we're stepping our toes into it. And it's something that I hope that we do find this way so that AI learns and evolves. I actually just for the first time watched Westworld, which was fascinating. And it was like, there's like shows that are talking about this now, right? So on the community, there's things we can do, which is looking at, like we would probably be not that sophisticated at the beginning, meaning like, here's people that are in Philadelphia, or here's people that have answered a lot of questions, or here's people that have a lot of skills in this knowledge, or even maybe check the box like, I'm open to mentor or something. So I think by starting with those broad strokes, it's at least helpful, because we definitely don't want to have, programmed bias into our algorithms. Thank you for that question. It's important that everybody thinks about that with AI.
I want to thank you so much for being here today
Thank you
and giving
to
me this
everybody.
opportunity. A big round of applause.